Hello and welcome to Last Word on Football, where I give you all of the biggest football news and none of the guff. And this week, you're being lied to, and it happens a lot more than you expect. However, that's my last of the news stories. Let's start off with Jordan Henderson, who has finally found a way out of Al Ettifaq. He went to Saudi Arabia in the summer with some spiel about how he's actually going there to try and fix the culture and make sure it's a lot more accepting. That didn't work because we are 6 or 7 months later and he's trying to find his way back to Europe. Okay, I didn't expect that one, especially considering that there would have been a lot of financial penalties for him. Now, this is a full contract termination. Al Ettifaq have just sliced off all of the remainder of his deal, which is a hell of a lot of money that Jordan Henderson is leaving on the table, probably because he doesn't quite like it over there. It's very hot. Ajax are reportedly looking at an 18-month deal to pick up the player, which makes sense because Ajax are fairly further down the Eredivisie, and they know they're not going to get competition from Premier League clubs because Jordan Henderson can't actually return to work in the UK until 2025. This is because he needs to complete a full tax year outside the UK in order to not pay UK taxes on those years of work. It makes sense somehow. Because in 2003, 2004, he started that tax year in the UK, he needs to make it 2004, 2005, he's not in the UK, which means that until April 2025, he cannot return to the UK to work. Not the best for him, I imagine. Partially because that means he's completely limited to playing for European clubs. Ajax are looking at a deal for 18 months with a year of an optional contract, but I feel like by that point, depending on his level, Henderson will want to return to England. We'll see how that goes. That's a very long-term story, though, but it's weird that he's gotten out. I imagine that the Saudis would have a little bit more soft power in this situation. And now we have to talk about Calvin Phillips, who is another player that was purchased by a Middle East-run club. Admittedly, the other ones were in the Middle East. But he is almost certainly out at Manchester City in this window. There's at least 4 clubs interested in him: Palace, Everton, Newcastle, and West Ham. But Juve have ruled themselves out of the deal, saying that their business is done outside of one deal that they've already got sort of in progress, which makes sense because Juve are financially not the best. They're not able to compete with Premier League clubs because Serie A's got a quite naff TV deal in terms of the amount of money it gets paid. Now, forcing this move, Everton and Newcastle might struggle financially. Newcastle reportedly already made a move for him, but were told that the loan fees and the amount they'd need to pay in wages were a little bit too high. They wouldn't be able to cover it, which sort of left them in a bit of a spiral. They've got to work something out in order to replace Tonali. Phillips looks like he'll be out of their reach. Everton, similarly, FFP stuff, they keep saying that they're not guilty of it, but if they keep spending obscene amounts of money, they're really not helping their cause. I think, in my opinion, this leaves him to potentially go to Palace or West Ham. I think West Ham, they're doing a little bit better this season, and they're just a lot more solid as a club at this point, but we'll find out where he ends up. Now, finally, football fans are being lied to without question. This is specifically talking about the Victor Gyökeres deal, where Chelsea were reportedly having conversations with Sporting Lisbon about, we want to sign Gyökeres. Gyökeres moved to Sporting Lisbon in the summer for, I think, 20 million euros ish, and the rumour was Chelsea were looking at him for about 90 million. Now, this is, as I've said, a rumour, and it's because it was bollocks. Gyökeres was never contacted by Chelsea. Sporting Lisbon were never contacted by Chelsea. They've not had an interest in him from any reliable sources. However, you might think that this is a weird case, that it's quite rare. This happens all the time. It starts with a football journalist or an in the know on Twitter basically saying, "I've got the inside scoop on this, right? This massive club wants to go for this player that you've only half heard of." And because you've only half heard of the player, and it's a league where you might not have sources that are quite as good, such as Portugal, this gets picked up. And other websites will see the article and go, "Oh, we might make something on that," and they might add their own little claim to it, like it'll probably be on a permanent deal, or I imagine the fee will be absolutely huge because Sporting just signed him, or there were rumours that he had a release clause. And that's how the spiral begins. You get more news stories and more news stories, and it sort of eats itself. It's an Ouroboros of lies and bollocks. Ouroboros being the snake that eats its own tail. And it's just, in the current modern age, football fans are constantly being lied to, and they don't realise it. And there needs to be a lot more media literacy amongst football fans, because otherwise this spiral will continue. People will keep assuming that players are coming to their clubs, or their clubs are being stupid because they're making moves for players that will never come, when it's never been happening in the first place. It's just infuriating. Anyway, Hope you enjoyed the video. Let me know what you think about all of the stories mentioned here down below. Like the video if you enjoyed and subscribe. I will see you later.